Next game on the list is Louisville. Clemson is a 9-point favorite against Louisville. This is obviously a team last year that, kind of surprised a lot of people in the ACC. They kind of had somewhat of a surprising season. They have a really good run last year. Are they going to be able to keep that going this year, or was that kind of a 1 year thing that they just kind of strike gold for one season and they're going to kind of come back down to earth, back to what Louisville kind of is known to be outside of kind of the Lamar Jackson years that they had, and then obviously last season. So -9 against Louisville. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's about right. Louisville is obviously, they lost a experienced starter in Jack Plummer. Obviously, had a lot of experience in Jeff Brom's offense. I'm interested to see how how they look in year two, because
Yeah.
they kind of faded down the stretch of last season. When kind of their depth was tested, and then in the bowl game, like they played a USC team that had basically none of their starters playing, and they got their defense. They got it was not. Miller Moss had a career day against them, so
Miller Moss looked like Caleb Williams out there, bro.
Yeah, I know. It was surprising because they had been a good defensive unit for most of that year.
Hey, they made Miller Moss look so good that USC decided to not go get a transfer quarterback.
Yeah, man, it's crazy, but I thought it was obviously a successful season for Jeff Brom in year one. I mean, no doubt. Louisville hadn't even played in the ACC title game until last season. Obviously, they took advantage of a lighter schedule, especially within the ACC. I know they beat Notre Dame out of conference, but like they did not play anybody. They got to avoid Clemson, Florida State, and North Carolina, I think.
And North Carolina.
So three of the teams that had the highest odds to win the conference, they avoided it, and so they took advantage of that, and as they should, and that was cool. But that was year one. Scott Satterfield had never gotten them to that point, and obviously they had a lot of success. They were really good defensively, and that's just it was a good year for them. But now the question is have they did the transfers they bring in this year, are they going to hit? They brought in Tyler Shuck, I think is projected to be their starting quarterback. And they also have that former 4-star that I'm blanking on his name right now. His dad is a quarterback coach, a well-known quarterback coach in the West Coast. And I cannot think of his name right now. So I'm wondering how that battle is going right now. They brought in some transfer pieces on defense, but I'm not sure how deep that roster is right now. They didn't really do a ton as far as high school recruiting this past cycle, but they did bring in a really good transfer portal class. So it's just kind of one of those, okay, we'll see. But Jeff Brom has a proven track record. For going back to his time at Purdue, he's going to put competitive. At least his offense is going to have some. He's going to have some good. You're going to get some good play out of his offenses. So we'll kind of see how that goes. But the line, as far as I'm concerned right now, I think it's probably about right. Maybe honestly, you might be able to argue a little bit more. But I'm not high on this Louisville team as it stands right now. I do think they could be in for a little bit of a regression. They had some really good pieces that held over from the Scott Satterfield era, and they hit on some really good transfers. But I don't know if they're gonna do that twice, because they don't have, especially since they don't have the light schedule that they did last year.
Right, exactly. They don't have the benefit of avoiding the biggest of the three when it comes to football in the conference this year. So obviously that's going to affect them. And I think to your point, the stars aligned for Louisville last year. It was kind of just, everything kind of worked in their favor, from schedule to transfers to, Jeff Brom just having an incredible first year and not taking anything away from him. I think he's a great coach. I think he's going to do really well at Louisville, but I do think they take probably several steps back in the second year. And that's not to that doesn't mean that he's going to fail there, or they're just going to completely fall apart. But it's going to be a much tougher season for Louisville,
Yeah.
and they're going to take their lumps, and they're just going to have to give Brom time to build that program and really instill his culture and get his guys in there, and just because you can supplement your roster and you can have quicker success because of the transfer portal. But if you're going to sustain and become a program that's going to be there year in and year out, you got to build through high school recruiting. So, and that still takes time, even in the day and age of transfer portal. Building high school recruiting and building that roster, building that depth, that's still going to take time. So,